and welcome to the Squared Circle Psychobabble. My name is Michael Valenti. This is Ralph Valenti. For the best conversations in AEW, WWE, NXT, and New Japan Pro Wrestling, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell for notifications. So over the weekend, we got some pretty interesting news here for AEW, and that is for the AEW Philadelphia show. Tazz is going to be appearing on commentary for AEW Dark. Is this something that we should really think is big news, or is it just, it's a nostalgia act 1 week and then moving on?
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely newsworthy, and I think it's something that the fans are going to get into. If there's one thing AEW has been able to do and successfully do week after week or month after month, it's been able to tug at the emotional strands of their hardcore fan base. I got to imagine, and especially when you think about this, the show that he's going to be commentating on is going to be in Philadelphia.
Right.
Where was ECW founded, and where was the stronghold of ECW back in the day originally? Philadelphia. So, I mean, week after week, like I said, or month after month, show after show, it just seems like they're willing to deliver or do something to deliver to get the fans invested in the product. Tazz obviously had his run in WWE, and he did some things on commentary. He worked in TNA at multiple different levels, but he's probably most well-known or notable for his time in ECW.
Right.
And having it been, having really worked in the Philadelphia area where you're going to have the hardcore fans, I got to imagine that's going to spark some intrigue. So good on behalf of AEW. Smart move by them.
I think this is a very interesting move. Yes, I understand that for the most part, this is going to be a one-off. With this being in Philadelphia, and obviously he can't wrestle, so just do the commentary. It will be on AEW Dark, where most of the diehard fans will watch AEW Dark. Maybe they get a few extra views out of it because Tazz is going to be on commentary. But I find it a little interesting because if there's one huge knock that AEW has right now, I believe the knock is their commentary. And particularly JR. Now, I love JR. He's my favorite commentator, a hero of mine when it comes to professional wrestling and commentary, being someone that has worked in radio, worked in television, have done play-by-play before. He's been an idol for me.
Right.
However, his time in AEW has been very hard to say, you know what, JR has been amazing. We have the good old JR. He's been the weak link in the commentary team. Well,
I mean, there's certainly reasons for that. Yeah, and I think I know where you're going with your point. You're going to say that they're bringing in Tazz, who isn't necessarily the best on commentary.
No. What I'm saying is this could be an audition for Tazz.
Oh, I see. Okay.
This could be an audition for Tazz, and if he does well, JR's not getting younger. His time could be running out. Maybe this could be, hey, let's see how he does with either Shivani or Excalibur or Golden, whatever the team is going to be.
Right.
If he sounds good, when JR decides to step back, we can bring in Tazz.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a possibility.
Right.
I can't see them going away from Jim Ross anytime soon. I certainly understand, and I agree with you. He hasn't been the greatest. But when you look at kind of the commentary of professional wrestling as a whole, there's not really all that many people that are great. There are people that are very good. I think Mauro Ronaldo right now to me has been the best for the last several years.
Right.
And most people would probably agree with that. Now, JR is JR. Like you said, he's probably the greatest commentator of all time as far as professional wrestling is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe his time has passed because he has had issues on commentary. He's forgotten wrestlers' names. He's forgotten where they were specifically on the show and actually had to ask whether it was Excalibur or Shivani, well, where are we in the show?
Mm-hmm.
And he plays it off, but I mean, it is noticeable. It's not like it's not noticeable. It's kind of an elephant in the room.
Right. And of course, you gotta bring up last week where he announced the location of the place. He didn't even know where he was. Like he said, he mispronounced the arena.
Yeah.
You would think that's one of the first things you look into is how to pronounce the arena's name. Now I get it. Agganis Arena might be a little hard to announce if that's the first time you're seeing it, but I doubt that's the first time he's seen the name of that arena.
I mean, he hasn't done commentary this much, I think, or been put in the spot. I mean, obviously he did this stuff with New Japan.
Right.
But I mean, to do it now on TNT where it's live, maybe he's just got to get back in the swing of things. So it's only been 2 shows, so maybe he'll get back on track.
Right.
But,
and I mean, he's done the 4 shows before the TV, and he wasn't the greatest. He was serviceable, but he's got to improve. And, if Tazz shows him up, if JR's not doing the Dark show and he's filling in for JR, and it sounds really good, if I'm Tony Khan, I might be thinking, hey, we got to look past, a few months from now. This is obviously a business, and we got to think, what could happen.
Tony Schiavone's been very good.
Schiavone has been good. So is Excalibur. So
yeah, he's been good.
But I think they want to stick with the 3-man team, and Tazz would be a great addition to that. And, Tazz isn't a play-by-play guy, which makes it better, too, because Schiavone's a play-by-play guy, JR's a play-by-play guy, and Excalibur's a play-by-play guy. They don't have a color commentator guy, and that's where Tazz, was really good. He was a very good color commentator when he was part of SmackDown's commentary team and ECW's commentary team. Yep. He wasn't a play-by-play guy, so I think he would fit in very well with that. But let's move on to Tazz's former employer, and that is WWE, who have been known to do nostalgia acts on their shows, more particularly the premiere of SmackDown on Fox, which drew about 3.9 million viewers, which they promoted The Rock, they promoted Stone Cold Steve Austin, they promoted The Undertaker, Sting. We only got a quarter of those names on the actual show, and I think that was part of the reason why the ratings tanked a little bit. And not just tanked, they lost about 1 million viewers.
Yep.
That is absolutely huge. So this past Friday, we had the WWE Draft starting up, and it got about 2.899 million viewers on Fox. Now, we asked the question with AEW and NXT if they should be concerned because their ratings dropped this week. Should Fox and WWE be worried that their ratings dropped in week 2?
Yeah, well, I sure as hell would be.
Yeah.
I really definitely would be. I mean, when you consider the sheer size of people, it's telling for a number of reasons, right? The first reason being there was a product that you put out there for the first episode on Fox with SmackDown that fans were intrigued by, whether that be the nostalgia acts of the returning guys from the past, or just the fact that Fox promoted the hell out of this and wanted people to tune in. They tuned in.
Yep.
Were you able to retain that audience? The overwhelming majority, the overwhelming, answer to that was no. You had 1 million. Now, granted, they still dominated that 18 to 49 demographic,
right?
Which by network standards, they were number 1.
Mm-hmm.
When you have 1 million people tuning out in a span of 1 week, that's a huge number. And that should be concerning. And not only should it be concerning, I think it's reflective of the fact of a number of things. One, like you pointed out, they didn't deliver. We know Sting was there. He was backstage. He didn't appear. Steve Austin, we don't know what the hell happened with him. He just wasn't on the show. He was advertised. We haven't heard anything from him. Undertaker did speak out and say they called him and they said, well, we don't need you. So 3 huge names that you were advertising that weren't on the show, that pisses people off. So you had The Rock on there. Okay, cool, great. What happened? The biggest thing, most telling thing to me is the fact that X amount viewed the first show, and then they stopped watching the second one, and that's essentially telling me you weren't able to retain them. They weren't entertained.
Right.
That you couldn't retain that 1 million people, those 1 million fans that viewed in, even if it was half that number.
Right.
1 million people to say, nah, I gave it a shot, but I don't like it. AEW, sure, the numbers dropped. NXT, the numbers dropped. Not by that amount. 1 million people.
Well, I will say that when you take it into a percentage point of view of how much of the audience was lost percentage-wise, AEW actually lost a bigger percentage of their audience. But I will say, I think a lot of what you're saying with the whole not delivering Austin, Sting, and Taker really hurt the ratings in week 2. I also think that, just like I said with AEW and NXT, there was an NLCS baseball game, which I think a lot of those viewers may have were watching that game because you have St. Louis, which is a historical baseball team that, probably draw a lot of ratings. And you have Washington, D.C., who, were part of the same effect on Wednesday night. So those are 2 big markets. And I think that took in to some of the viewership. And those were part of, they were on cable television because I believe they're on TBS. So the fact that SmackDown was still able to dominate that demographic, still dominate network television, still number one, but that they didn't really go anywhere else on network television. I'm not going to say I'm going to quickly push that panic button yet. There's some concern, I will say that, but I'm not going to say, oh my God, this is really, really bad and a panic. They do have to make changes.
They've had to make changes for the last several years and they haven't.
Right. No, I understand that. But I think once we get past this draft, we know where guys are going. We don't have the wild card rule anymore, at least for now. I think we'll get an idea of how these ratings are going to go. We know Bray Wyatt is going to be on SmackDown. Hopefully that means better ratings. You would think Brock Lesnar is going to be on SmackDown, which you would think is better ratings and everything going on with him and Cain Velasquez. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah. There's one huge problem that we have to talk about when it comes to this SmackDown and this draft, and that is the stupidity, absolute stupidity of whoever released the list of eligible guys on the draft this past Friday, released it in the exact order that the picks were made. And I think once people caught on to that, they tuned out. Mm-hmm. So that probably was annoying too. Yeah. Or people that saw the list ahead of time and were like, this looks like the order it's going to be in, right, and didn't watch ahead of time. So that was bad.
I can't fathom that a company that has been around for as long as WWE has been around and is as established, and it's a $1 billion company. Right. It's one of the most successful companies in the history of this country and the world, probably. Mm-hmm. The fact that it just seems like they can't get out of their own way at all lately. I mean, and I don't want to downplay this with the million people not tuning in. Certainly everything you said holds true. There was playoff games. There was all these things going on. Sure. But it comes at the tail end of an absolute lackluster week for WWE when you think about it. I mean, they had initially they had the SmackDown show, the first show. They didn't have any of the guys on that they had advertised, which we talked about. Fans were pissed off because they didn't get 205 Live at the end, which, how many people actually wanted to see it, I don't really know, but it's another knock on them, right? Then you had Hell in a Cell, which was another whole debacle in itself with the ending, with The Fiend and Seth. Raw sucked. I think we can all agree it. Let's just admit it. Raw was fucking terrible. Mm-hmm. You didn't have The Fiend on. You didn't have Seth on. And then I think it just speaks to their inability to create intriguing storylines and create characters that are larger than life. And I know there's not going to be a John Cena that comes around or a Hulk Hogan or a Steve Austin that comes around every couple years where they can really draw those million viewers, millions and millions of viewers, sell t-shirts. But I mean, if you're the biggest wrestling company in the world, what guy have they essentially been able to create or put on a pedestal or create a huge draw since John Cena? I mean, you could say The Fiend has been a little intriguing, but he's not at a John Cena level.
No, it's too early for that.
And Roman Reigns, all the eggs were put in one basket with him.
Right.
When you look at AEW and you look at the product, and we're going to talk about this, the matches, it's not just, hey, here's the match, they're going to feud for a month and a half, and, they'll have a couple spots here and there, but we're not going to tell you why they're feuding. Like Baron Corbin and Shorty Gable. They've had 6 matches. For what reason, I don't know. Baron Corbin has dominated, 95% of the feud. Mm-hmm. Things just happen on WWE without any explanation, and somebody's going to hold them accountable. And the only way that's going to happen is if people stop watching or it affects the money that they make. Right. And I love WWE, but they've been honing it in for years now. Right. And now they have competition. 1 million viewers that just stop watching your TV show. Somebody's not going to be happy about that. I guarantee you. And we'll see what happens with the ratings going forward, but I can't imagine they're going to get any better if they continue to put a stale product out there.
Now, if it ends up where it stabilizes at this 2.8, 3.2 range, sure, do you think Fox is okay with that, or do they want that 3.9 that they got week 1?
I mean, the higher the ratings, the better for everybody, obviously. I'd imagine. But if they're stable and they can, retain the viewers, then okay, that's fine. Right. But
you're paying $1 billion. if you think about it, they're paying $1 billion for what was essentially the B show for a very, very long time.
Yep.
And at the time, before they moved to Fox, they were averaging what? 2.2, 2.4.
Yeah.
On a good night, 2.6. So you're paying $1 billion for just an extra 600,000 viewers.
Yeah. And if they're going to continue to put a similar product to what that product was or is, what makes anybody think the ratings are just going to magically go up? What do they get in order to get the ratings higher than what they are? They're going to need to change some things.
Right.
And everything that they've done to me indicates that they're not going to change. As much as they say they are, as many times as Vince comes out and Stephanie comes out and Triple H and they all come out as a group or however individually and say, you're the authority, we're going to change, you have the power. It's all bullshit. Yeah. It's been the same product since the night they came out till friggin' Friday.
Yeah.
It's not going to change.
Right. Well, maybe the change happens with if Brock is on SmackDown, you got Braun on SmackDown, they have that big crossover with Fury and Cain Velasquez. Maybe that helps boost the ratings, but only time will tell. But let's go back to a guy that used to be in WWE, was frustrated with what was going on with WWE. He's now in AEW. He's now in New Japan, and that's Jon Moxley.
Right.
He's got a pretty busy week.
He certainly does.
He does. So Monday morning, if you're watching this after the fact or before the fact, he has a match in Japan for New Japan Pro Wrestling for the IWGP United States Championship at the King of Pro Wrestling show where he's defending the title against Juice Robinson.
Right.
Then he's got to fly back Tuesday to be part of the show in Philadelphia for AEW, where he's in a tag team match with Pac against Kenny Omega and Hangman Page. Mm-hmm. Two very, very big matches. Now, I'm not going to really dive into both matches or the matches right now because we're going to do a AEW Dynamite preview on our next episode. But if you're Jon Moxley, this is very interesting because that's going to be jet lag. If I'm either AEW or if I'm New Japan Pro Wrestling, when I see their contracts come up for Jon Moxley, do I think to myself, we got to nail this guy exclusively. We can't have him do this anymore. Mm-hmm. So the question is, do we see Moxley drop the title to Juice Robinson and have him focus more on AEW? Because I think his contract's going to end up in after Wrestle Kingdom. So where does he go from here? Is the question.
He probably should focus solely on AEW. I don't know what he really intends to do, though, and I don't know the extent of his current contract situation. Right. So, I can't really speak to it. But I mean, it's just kind of like you pray to God that there's no flight cancellations because, especially, and it's not his fault that with the whole staph infection and all of that, him being pulled out. But we know that happened in Japan, and we know fans were really upset when he couldn't make All Out. Now, let's suppose the worst thing happens, he gets hurt or he, something happens with his flight and he can't make this show now. Mm-hmm. You're trying to juggle two acts and it's not like he's going from New Jersey to Philadelphia, New York to Philadelphia. He's going from Japan to Philadelphia.
Right.
So it makes things a little more difficult. I got to imagine that once his contract's up, he's going to solely be with AEW because, it's got to be tough on him to kind of focus on all of that.
This is really the first time he's had to make such a quick turnaround because he was at the G1 for a couple months and he really could have stayed in Japan throughout the whole time. And then once he comes back, he has a staph infection, whatever. It wasn't like he was doing this back and forth. Now he's doing this back and forth. And it's probably a rare occasion because of how their schedules work. But still, if this happens, he's in a big match with Juice Robinson. It's a no disqualification match. So injuries are more likely to happen in something like that. And AEW, I don't think have disqualifications because we haven't seen grounds for one yet. Right. Yet they've done everything to get disqualified. So, both are showing you that they are going to be on the dangerous side of professional wrestling. And, if I'm Moxley, I pray that I could get out of this completely healthy without staph infections or injuries, because if I get injured in one of these both shows, that could affect me financially.
Yeah, with AEW.
So we'll see how it goes. But Let us know what you think of Jon Moxley's situation, also the ratings with SmackDown, and Tazz on the commentary team in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, share it all over social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at SCPB Podcast. And for the best conversations in AEW, WWE, NXT, and New Japan Pro Wrestling, make sure you subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. For Rob Valenti, my name's Michael Valenti. Thank you for watching the Squared Circle Psychobabble.